Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for your patience on a little bit of a delayed start. We'd like to welcome you to our monthly meeting of the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals. At this time, I would like everybody who is able to stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Also, the standard, if you haven't turned your phone to silent, would you please do so at this time? I'll now call our meeting to order. For those of you who do not have a copy of the agenda or who are attending for the first time, we will concern ourselves with cases that are on consent. These are cases that have been reviewed by the board and by the professionals on the county staff, and to which there is no known opposition. We have discussed these in our work session. Certain staff comments and stipulations have been made, and we do not anticipate any further discussion. So as we go forward, Mr. Peterson, our zoning division manager, will read each case into the record. Raise your hand when your case is called to signify you're present. If you're here in opposition, we ask you to identify yourself, and as that case is read into the record, and we will then pull it off the consent and hear it as part of our regular case agenda. We then vote on all cases that are still on consent at one time. Once we've approved the cases on consent, we will move to our regular case agenda. With that, are we ready, Mr. Peterson?
Yes. Before we get going, there are a couple more announcements I need to make. There is one case on today's printed agenda which has been withdrawn without prejudice. In this case, will not be heard today. That's variance case V145 of 2024, John C. Ansmol. This case is withdrawn and will not be heard. Additionally, there's two cases on the printed agenda which have been held or continued, and these two cases will not be heard today. First case is variance case V129 of 2024, Charles Brown, Diane Benson Brown. This case was continued, so this one will be heard in December. And lastly, variance case V148 of 2024, Jake Anthony Strange. This case was continued, so that one will be heard at the variance board hearing on December 11th, 2024. Madam Chair and Board, I did get a request to continue one other variance that was on your regular agenda. That's variance case of V147 of 2024, Kevin Clayton. The applicant needs to continue this, Madam Chair and Board, to add some more variances to their request. So the staff would ask the board to continue variance case V147 until your December 11th hearing date.
Do I have a motion to continue that case into the December 11th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please vote. Okay, that is approved.
Okay, thank you. Well, was there anyone here opposed to variance case V147 that showed up? Okay, Mr. Huff, we'll talk to you about his case. Thank you. Before I read the consent agenda, Madam Chair and Board, there is one case that needs to come off. That's variance case of V143 of 2024, Stanley Wills and Albert Matheson. This case needs some more discussion, so we're going to pull that off consent and put it on the regular agenda.
Okay.
All right, and with that, I'm ready to start the consent agenda. Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, variance hearing consent agenda for November 13th, 2024. First case on consent is variance case of V135. Andy Lee requests a variance to reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet for a proposed 1,200 square foot basketball court from required 100 feet to 15 feet adjacent to the south property line, 20 feet adjacent to the east property line, and 45 feet adjacent to the west property line in land lot 914 of the 16th district. The property is located on the south side of Octavia Lane, east of East Piedmont Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, development inspections comments, and number 2, any lights on the basketball court to be turned off at 9 p.m. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V135? Okay, let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case of V136, Ben Carlos K. Staton requests a variance to number 1, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an existing approximately 380 square foot shed for required 30 feet to 14 feet. And number 2, reduce the major side setback from required 20 feet to 19 feet adjacent to the west property line, which is existing, in land lot 628 of the 19th district. The property is located at the northeast corner of Waymar Way and Waymar Drive. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V136? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case of V137, Jennifer Jones requests a variance to allow a proposed in-ground pool and pool equipment to be located to the side in front of the principal building in land lot 750 of the 17th district. The property is located on the north side of Park Avenue, east of Beach Street. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, site plan review comments, and number 2, sewer comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case V137? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V140, Tim and Hope Morgan request a variance to allow a proposed in-ground pool and decking to encroach upon the 75-foot impervious buffer in land lot 143 of the 19th district. The property is located on the east side of Poplar Springs Road, south of Dallas Highway. Staff recommends approval, subject to stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V140? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V141, Stephen Quayle requests a variance to number 1, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for a proposed approximately 576 square foot garage, required 35 feet to 10 feet, adjacent to the west property line. And number 2, allow an accessory structure, which is a proposed approximately 576 square foot garage to be located to the side of the principal building in land lot 302 of the 20th district. The property is located at the northern terminus of Wild Iris Lane, north of Owl Creek Drive. Staff recommends approval, subject to the detached garage not to be used for dwelling or commercial use. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V141? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V142, Emery Floyd requests a variance to number 1, reduce the rear setback from required 40 feet to 25 feet, and number 2, reduce the side setbacks from required 10 feet to 9 feet adjacent to the north and south property lines, which is existing, in land lot 488 of the 19th district. The property is located at the northeast terminus of Hampton Estates Drive, east of Powder Springs Road. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case V142? Let the record show there's no one opposed. V144, Stephen and Linda McCormick request a variance to number 1, reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet for an existing 2-story, approximately 1,170 square foot barn stable, required 100 feet to 31 feet adjacent to the north property line. Number 2, allow an accessory structure, which is an existing 2-story, approximately 1,170 square foot barn stable, to be located in front of the principal building on a lot. Number 3, reduce the setback for an accessory structure for an existing approximately 170 square foot shed from required 25 feet to 12 feet adjacent to the north property line. Number 4, allow an accessory structure, which is an existing approximately 170 square foot shed to be located in front of the principal building on a lot. Number 5, to reduce the setback for an accessory structure, which is an existing approximately 297 square foot chicken coop from 25 feet to 1 foot adjacent to the south property line. Number 6, reduce the setback for an accessory structure, which is an existing 160 square foot shed from required 25 feet to 5 feet adjacent to the south property line. Number 7, to allow encroachment of the 75-foot impervious buffer. And number 8, allow a gravel drive existing without a 25-foot paved or asphalt apron at a public road in land lot 350, 351, 390, and 391 of the 19th District. The property is located on the east side of Velmo Drive, north of Mary L. Trail. Staff recommends approval, subject to number 1, barn not to be used for dwelling or commercial use, and number 2, traffic comments. Is the applicant present? The director shows the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V144? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V146, Gregory Adam Upchurch requests a variance to number 1, reduce the front setback from required 35 feet to 31 feet, and that is existing. Number 2, reduce the rear setback from required 35 feet to 33 feet. And number 3, reduce the side setback from required 10 feet to 2 feet adjacent to the west property line in land lot 792 of the 17th District. The property is located on the east side of Sybil Lane, south of Ferradale Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to development inspections comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V146? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And that completes the consent agenda, Madam Chair and Board.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a motion this time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I proposed some changes, and I apologize. I gave the wrong number to John earlier today. My request is that, my motion is that we remove case number V144 from the consent agenda so we can address the apron issue. Let the applicant speak to that, because typically our DOT requires that 25-foot paved apron. I would like to restore V143 to the consent agenda. I gave John the wrong number before the meeting. And as to V141, my motion is that we add an additional stipulation that there be no turbocharged vehicles kept on the property.
Do we need anything else, John?
Okay, let me go ahead and read back in V143, okay? Variance case of V143, Stanley Wills and Albert Matheson as executors of the estate of Charles E. Wills and Mary B. Wills request a variance to number 1, reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet for an existing approximately 2,054 square foot barn from required 100 feet to 20 feet adjacent to the west property line, 68 feet adjacent to the south property line, and 95 feet adjacent to the north property line. Number 2, allow parking and maneuvering of vehicles on a non-hardened and treated surface, which is an existing gravel drive. Number 3, reduce the front setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an existing approximately 600 square foot metal carport from required 40 feet to 22 feet. And number 4, allow an accessory structure on a lot without a principal building, which is the existing approximately 600 square foot metal carport in land lot 197 of the 20th District. The property is located on the west side of Acworth Dewis Road, north of Frays Farm Lane. Staff recommends approval, subject to barn not to be used for dwelling or commercial use. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V143? Okay, let the record show there's no one opposed. And that completes the consent agenda, Madam Chair and Board.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions, comments on any other cases that are on consent? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all right, please place your votes. Consent agenda cases have been approved. If you are a consent agenda case, you're more than welcome to leave. Just do so quietly as we move forward with our regular agenda. Thank you. Peterson, ready to move forward.
Okay. Moving into the held and continued case part of the agenda. First case we're going to hear today is variance case V120.
Oh, Mr. Peterson, I'm so sorry. I forgot the caveats to go with this before we get into your spiel. I do
Okay.
apologize. Not on my game today. To review the procedure, if you're on the regular case agenda, Mr. Peterson will read the case into the record, and the applicant or representative of the applicant who wishes to speak will be asked to come forward to be sworn in. Likewise, anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be asked to come forward as well. Both the applicant and the opposition will have 10 minutes each to present their case. All testimony will be made from the podium to my right, where we have all the AV capabilities for any images you may have. At that point, the board will begin asking questions if need be, and may be directed to either party. But just a reminder, once comments from all parties related to the case have been concluded, we close the public hearing on that item, and there could be no more comments unless we asked you to come back to the podium. All right, now we're ready. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, first case we're going to hear today is variance case V120. Peter Brown and Chandra Brown request a variance to number 1, increase the maximum allowable impervious coverage from 35% to 39.08%. And number 2, allow pool equipment to the side of the house in land lot 11 of the 1st District. The property is located on the west side of Dunmore Road, north of Chestnut Lake Drive. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V120? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Hi, Alex Tidwell with Voice Design Build. Here to represent the project at 4430 Dunmore Road. It's a swimming pool, asking to increase the impervious surface. We have put together a mitigation plan that takes care of the first 1.2 inches of rainfall. And it actually succeeds the recommended requirement. We were actually doing the whole backyard surface and also partial of the roof. This would help downhill houses, just because we are collecting that, so you don't have that first flush going straight down the hill. We would at least be able to capture that. I know there was some concern from Stormwater Department of what happens when that fills up, and go from there. But the homeowners have lived in the house in the neighborhood for a very long time, and like to continue to live there and have the outdoor space. I know it was suggested that we do something on the downhill neighbor side to help prevent any flooding of their basement, but we're not comfortable with the liability of taking on that project, especially with the history of the flooding in their basement.
Do you have anything else?
No, that was it.
Okay, you may be seated.
Hi. One of the things too that I guess we were.
Introduce
Do you need
yourself?
my name? Chandra Brown.
Okay.
Sorry. Was the storm drainage size. We're going above and beyond in the sense that the size that, I guess, the extra percentage that we're asking for, we're increasing the size of the storm drainage to incorporate the whole backyard, not just the overage. So we're going what we feel is above and beyond to help with any kind of potential issues.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Heath, if I could have you come forward, please.
Andrew Heath, Cobb County Stormwater Management.
Hi. I know you've put in a lot of work and effort on this particular case, and your final recommendation, I'll just read, and if that's still the case, let me know. To allow increase of impervious area up to 39.84%, subject to, 1, provide stormwater mitigation as shown on the revised site plan and subject to stormwater management's comments and recommendations. And 2, connect the pool's waste line to the sanitary sewer system. Does that cover all of your concerns?
That's correct.
It does? Okay. Anything further you feel like we need to address?
No, the case has been heard. I've met with the the opposition in the field, met with them several times, met with the applicant, and it seems like this is probably the best compromise that helps everybody the most. So that's my recommendation.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you. So with that being stormwater management's recommendation, I would like to make a motion that incorporates that recommendation. Do I need to read that again? Or we're good? Read it again? Okay.
Yeah.
To allow increase of impervious area up to 39.84%, subject to, 1, provide stormwater mitigation as shown on the revised site plan, and subject to stormwater management's comments and recommendations. And 2, connect the pool's waste line to the sanitary sewer system. And then a further part of my motion will be to approve allowing the pool to be to the side as requested in the variance. And that concludes my motion.
Second, but subject to, at least what we're being shown says 39.08. Has that changed?
39.84 is what the most recent that I've got from Andrew.
Okay, second.
Okay, place the votes. The request has been approved. Thank you very much. Next case.
Next case is variance case V123, Paul D. Hurley. Request a variance to waive the paved sidewalk, curb, and gutter requirement for a residential subdivision in land lot 144, the 20th District. The property is located on the north and south sides of Loring Way, west of Loring Road. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V123? Yes, one. Okay. Let the record show there's one person opposed. All those who wish to address the board for or against the request, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Hurley. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. This is a road that we've been working on, my family and I, since 1989. I spoke at the commissioners in 91, because when the road was upgraded in the late 70s, they didn't even put this road back in. And through the commissioners, they very graciously agreed it was a dedicated road in a dedicated neighborhood and provided me, my family, and the community a beautiful road, absolutely gorgeous. They even added a cul-de-sac at the end that was not in the original plating or anything, and we were ecstatic. So anyhow, through the course of time, when we started this, there was no sewer available, and my dad let them run sewer under a road, under the creek through some property of his, and they put taps in there for him. He did it for free. And the end result is it gave us a tap we could tie into and turn this into sewage so that all the properties would be available, not need to be combined. So it made sense to do it in that context. Now, in the time of that meeting, the commissioners were very gracious. They were very agreeable. They gave me all of them agreed. But during it, they said, Mr. Hurley, we agree to your road. We're going to give you that. Would you like curbs, gutters, and sidewalks, sir? And I said, no, I would not like them. That seems greedy. They're not in the neighborhood anywhere else. The minutes exist of what I'm saying. Said nobody else has them, and I wouldn't like this road to stand out as being different from the rest of the subdivision. I want this road to blend in and be part of the community. And they therefore agreed, did their gavel, said no curbs, gutters, and sidewalks, and built me a beautiful road. Well, over the course of time, there's been some confusion as to the idea that I am building a subdivision, and the subdivision has been there since 1957. The road's been dedicated since then, and these are individual lots which Cobb County Community Development, it took a minute, we talked about it, we discussed it, and agreed they are individual lots on a public road. And frankly, I thought I had the curb, gutter, and sidewalk thing handled with the Cobb County Commissioners in 1991. But I was asked to go ahead and do the necessary steps to get them removed again. So that's what I'm here trying to do today, is keep this road, like all the other roads in this neighborhood that's been around forever. The land has been platted since '57. There is no changes, no upgrades, no updates, no incredible plans other than providing sewage so that all the lots are viable. I don't believe they all are on septic because they're too small to today's standards. So that being said, some of the opposition I heard last time I was here, I'd like to address, is I was told of a darterfish in the creek that needed to be protected. And you're probably looking at the biggest tree hugger out there. I would not want to hurt anything. I mean it. I just love nature. But they suggested that I get involved in the shoreline restoration project of Cobb County. And the creek, Butler Creek specific, she mentioned it was on 2 other creeks. And I would have loved to told her that I had already signed up for it. I've involved 5 lots over 2 acres. I've already signed notarized statements allowing the Corps of Engineers and Cobb County Stormwater Management to do whatever they needed to evaluate it, and that I would cooperate any way possible. So I would hope that would ease some of her concerns. I might also add that I would argue, I'm not a scientist, but this road's been there a long time, and concentrating all the flow off the road in one area would directly take it to the creek quicker than allowing it to run off the road and be absorbed by some of the local land before it gets to the creek. So her argument, I did not understand. But she never reached out to me, and I'd have been happy to tell her those facts. One more thing I would like to add is we had a big meeting with Mike, Cobb County Commissioner of the district, the head of DOT, the head of zoning, the head of community development, and we discussed this project. That's why I'm here, because the zoning was gracious to me to allow me the chance to discuss this with you. But I would add from the meeting, because everybody had the minutes from the meeting in '91, Cobb County Community Development Director, I spoke with him afterwards and I said, did the minutes from the meeting not tell that I had already had this approved by the county, did not have them? His answer was yes. He said, I didn't understand it. It said right there that you didn't have to have curbs, gutters, and sidewalks when the road was installed. But I'm here today. I'm here to do whatever y'all need to make another great area in this county for what should be more affordable homes, which I think everybody knows there's a shortage of right now. And last thing I'd like to say, and I've said this to anybody in the county that's talked to me, my dad passed away 3 years ago, okay? He asked me to continue this project. I bought 5 of the lots myself, so he didn't just give me everything. And that's why he involved me. And at the end of this project, I'm not trying to get away with anything. I want the county to be proud. I want my dad to be proud. I want the neighborhood to be proud. That's the only way I'm going to be proud. So I'm more than liable to whatever you need. But I appreciate your time, and I hope that we can move this forward successfully. Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
People in opposition? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Vicki Wickert. And if we could start out with this. I am opposed to the variance request for several reasons. Number one, infrastructure. The current ditch and culvert drainage system is old, poorly maintained, and was designed to serve the population density of the original multi-acre lots. Over the 30-plus years we have resided in Kennesaw Acres, the original multiple acre lots have been subdivided and new homes built without adequate upgrades to the drainage system. Ditches fill with sediments and culverts get clogged, causing stormwater drainage to be redirected down roads, into yards, and down driveways. The lots 15 to 23 on the original Loring Way variance request range between 0.19 and 0.28 acres with an average size of 0.24 acres. I think maybe this variance request must have been modified later on to include all of the lots along Loring Way because there's another document in there that shows 5.07 acres. These lots are much smaller than the average half-acre plus or minus lots in the established Kennesaw Acre community and are situated at some of the lowest elevations. Rather than adding to the already stressed drainage system, this would be an opportunity, I would hope, to begin making much-needed improvements. And on here you can see Loring Way with the cul-de-sac. The aqua-colored shading is high flood risk area, Butler Creek, of course, and the red stripes is even higher, and then there's a small area in brown along Loring Way that is moderate flood risk. And then this would show within those areas, it's kind of hard to make it out, but the 20 or so lots that Mr. Hurley has laid out in that flood risk area as compared to the size of the lots in the rest of the neighborhood. So my concerns, I'm not a scientist either, but my concerns are the population density, the amount of runoff that would be generated from that many lots so close to the creek, and the fact that they are in a flood risk area. The second concern is traffic. As was brought up in the last meeting, there was a recent speed table study completed under the direction of Abby Fletcher of the Cobb DOT that found that on some days as many as 900 cars travel along Loring Road between Mountain View and Memorial Parkway. I think it's safe to say that far exceeds the resident population of the area and is most likely a result of map applications which are taking people coming along Jim Owens Road, routing them up Allen Way, and then either down Mountain View Drive, Howard, or Allen, onto Loring and back out to Cobb Parkway, which is an easy shortcut to get to Walmart and other establishments without having to go through heavily used intersections and traffic lights. The residents of Loring Way will also need to use Loring Road to exit the subdivision. So potentially adding 20 more households along that area of road would only add to the existing problem. Had Mr. Hurley signed the speed table petition, his cooperation with and concern for the existing residents of Kennesaw Acres, as well as the future residents of Kennesaw Acres, would have been much appreciated. Excessive non-resident drivers and speeders pose a danger to residents out for a stroll, a bike ride, or a run. And number three, the environment. The Butler Creek Aquatic Ecosystem Restoration Project is a Section 206 project identified by Cobb County for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to study and implement solutions. Cobb County has committed to 35% of the cost of the project. In 2021, the Cobb Courier reported an estimated cost to the county of $2.6 million plus $708,000 towards feasibility studies. Butler Creek and other creeks in the area have been proven to support the Cherokee darter, a fish endemic to the region and listed as threatened by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Rapid growth in the Kennesaw-Ackworth area has adversely impacted its habitat. And the next thing I'm going to show is the USGS has a gauge at Butler Creek, on Butler Creek at McDobbs Road, and this is discharged cubic feet per second over the past year. So it clearly illustrates the wild fluctuations during heavy rain events. And as you can see, the last one to the right would have been when the effects of Hurricane Helene came through, which honestly really wasn't that bad, but it illustrates a pretty unhealthy stream system where there's such wild fluctuations in discharge. So at any rate, heavy urbanization has increased flows, stream bank erosion, and heavy sedimentation. Catching frequent heavy rain events and releasing them at a slower rate is critical to the restoration project. Butler Creek, Alatoona Creek, and Proctor Creek were all assessed and evaluated. The University of Georgia's Institute of Ecology completed fish sampling studies to determine the diversity, health, and abundance of fishes. And finally, a multidisciplinary team consisting of the Cobb County Water System, the Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, including its Environmental Protection Division, along with the cities of Kennesaw and Ackworth, assessed the studies and concluded the Butler Creek watershed would be the only of the 3 original creeks to receive funding and move forward with the restoration project. Considering Loring Way's elevation and proximity to Butler Creek, a variance to Cobb County Code for curbs and gutters would seem to me to be counterproductive to the restoration project. And this particular screen print, and it's rather hard to see, but this is the Butler Creek watershed, and
Can you point to it?
Grayscale areas were the roads, but they were very hard to see. So the blue line that I've drawn is Loring Road, and the little branch off from that is Loring Way. And this area, very close to Loring Way, is one of the areas that the Army Corps of Engineers has targeted for restoration. So the Butler Creek watershed, of course, supports other flora and fauna other than the Cherokee darter. I know that Mr. Beloin mentioned on October 9th that he had seen deer there, but there are also turkeys, fox, coyotes, beavers, hawks, owls, falcons, and on a very rare occasion, we have seen otters in the creek.
Excuse me, you have about 45 seconds left.
Okay, so in conclusion, I urge you to protect and preserve this valuable ecosystem and deny the variance request.
Thank you. You may be seated, and we'll now close the public hearing. Okay, thank you. Questions, comments?
not mine.
Oh, Kim. I think- What? Mr. Maloney? Sorry, I told you I'm off today.
Would you like for the District 4 Planning Commissioner to handle this case?
Would you just,
Or rather, Board of Zoning Appeals member? No,
yeah,
I'm kidding.
I'm very sorry.
That's okay. I'm
looking at
fine.
all these threes over here, thinking that they're all these
I'm
cases.
fine, I'm fine, no problem. Thank you, Madam Chair. So let me start, Mr. Peterson. A suggestion was made by the applicant that he doesn't need these variances. Do you have any thoughts on that?
According to Cobb DOT, he does need this variance.
Okay. All right. Well, let me start with stormwater, actually, if I could.
Hello, Andrew Heath, Cobb Stormwater Management.
All right. What are your thoughts on the impact that this variance request, which is limited to waiving paved sidewalk, curb, and gutters, would have on stormwater?
Right. Without the curb and gutter and sidewalk and having a more, what you might refer to as a rural section, that is, you don't have sidewalks, you don't have curb and gutter to confine the water, it's going to allow the water from the road and the lawn areas of the eventual homes that are built there to be able to run into the roadside ditch, and the ditch will carry it to some low point. There's an approximate low point there now where a pipe goes under Loring Road and discharges water down to the creek. If sidewalk were put in, then a lot of times the lawns are graded so that they just drain straight out to the street. There's no roadside ditch. It just drains right into the curb, then it goes down the curb line. So you probably would have to have some inlets and things like that, at least at certain points along the curb, to capture that runoff. And then again, it would discharge into probably into the same pipe system and then onto the creek again. So it's a little different flavor, I guess you could say. You might argue that there's a potential stormwater advantage in that without the sidewalks and the curb and gutter, you have a little bit less impervious area. On the other hand, you have a roadside ditch beside the road, and that's a little bit more of a, you kind of think about that more of like a rural type section, more so than in kind of a subdivision. Doesn't mean it can't work. It's a little bit something that, you know, would have to be mowed, cleaned of silt, things like that periodically. So there's some trade-offs each way with that. So I didn't really, on that particular issue, because there are some some positives and negatives to that, I didn't really, in my comments, I didn't really take a strong stance on that one way or the other.
So what's, just as a layman, is there any difference between a culvert and a ditch?
I guess in my parlance, the culvert is the pipe or the opening, whatever forms that under the road that conveys the water from the, in this, as this is shown on the screen here, that portion of the lots that are to the north of the road, they're draining down and going through a pipe under the road, under Loring Road, that pipe being the culvert. And then if they have either curb and gutter or a ditch system, instead of having inlets along the road that are fed by the curb and gutter, you would have some more of like an open pipe, you might say, with a head wall where the ditch would go down to that open pipe and kind of drain under the road, more like you would see in an urban or in a rural area. So
You say in a rural area, but do we have these situations where we just use some drainage ditches currently on some of our feeder roads and secondary roads here in Cobb County?
we do, yes.
Okay. Any stormwater comments that or conditions that we should add if we approve this?
A lot of the, what I heard the opposition talking about, floodplain, water quality issues with respect to Butler Creek, things like that, that isn't really directly affected one way or the other, I would say, by the variance of the sidewalks versus the curb and gutter, or sidewalks and curb and gutter versus the ditch. From our standpoint in stormwater management, our primary area of focus is going to be when the applicant actually comes in to get a building permit for the lots, that's when we're going to really review that, and then that's when really our requirements for looking at things like floodplain management issues and that sort of thing are really going to begin to kick in. So.
All right, and the suggestion was made that there's at least some floodplain on some of these lots? You heard that?
Yes, quite a bit.
What impact will that have on the ability of the applicant to pull building permits?
Yeah, for some of the lots, it's going to be just based on our, GIS information. It's going to be almost impossible. The county requires now for lots that are being constructed that the lot has to have at least 12,500 square feet of the lot at an elevation 18 inches above the so-called base flood elevation. That is this 1% annual chance flood. That's our regulatory event. So many of the lots are almost entirely covered by floodplain. They don't have much out of the floodplain at all. So it's going to be very hard to permit those. There are some back closer to the entrance and more on the northern or northeastern, depending on how you want to look at it, side of Loring Road, that they hold really the best opportunity, I think, for permitting.
For development?
Right.
Okay. So the notion that there are going to be as many possible additional cars on the road is probably the reality is probably that fewer additional cars will be added here.
Yeah, you'd imply that, yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions of stormwater if any of my fellow board members do. Okay, thank you. Let me go to the applicant, if I could. Do you have any thoughts regarding, the subject has come up regarding this attempt to get one or two speed bumps or speed tables added here? Did you have any thoughts respecting that?
Yes, sir. I've reviewed the information. I looked at the map, but after our meeting last time, frankly, I didn't want to vote because I don't have a house there. I wanted the community to decide, but it helps me for the speed bumps because that slows people down, allows people in and out of Loring Way easier. The speed bumps serve Loring Way, so I'm not opposed. I just wasn't comfortable signing. But in talking with the people, I was in contact with them yesterday, today. I had not received the form to sign to show my approval, but I did give consent via text and all and told them as soon as I received the form, I'm all for curbs and gutters, and they have my vote.
I'm sorry, you're not for curbs and gutters, right? I mean, you're asking us to waive.
I meant speed bumps. Did I say curbs and gutters? I apologize. Okay, that explains that, why y'all are looking at me. I apologize. The speed bumps.
It's okay.
I do agree with that, and I consented to sign that today. Thank you, sir.
I've made a mistake today. I'm just trying to be helpful where I can. Okay, I have no further questions to the applicant, if any of my fellow board members do. Okay.
Is there any way I could add one thing in, please?
What was the one thing you wanted to add?
The floodplain maps they're using, in 2009, when the Six Flags flood came, they took 3 feet away from everything in there, and it truly damaged the ability to do a lot of building. Well, approximately 10 years ago, they gave 2.5 foot back. And that is not an accurate map. There's only a little floodplain on 3 lots on the right side of the road. And if you take dirt from floodplain and above floodplain, which I have on the left side, put it on the right, stormwater management will allow you to do that to mitigate floodplain. And that's in my engineering plans for the sewer, for that to be mitigated. And nothing on the right side is buildable like they said, except the first 2 or 3 lots. And I have no intention to do anything there. Thank you for that.
One more question. Is this a dead-end road? Is it going to stay a dead-end road?
Absolutely.
You're going to put a cul-de-sac at the end? No.
The DOT put a cul-de-sac in. There's a cul-de-sac there now. There's no cul-de-sacs in the neighborhood, but in 91, when they approved it, they kindly gave us one. It needs some improvement. It's not big enough, but that's a different issue.
And I couldn't drive down the road because this thing was blocked.
Yes, sir. There's a gate there. I got permission from zoning several years ago. My dad had it before then, that this being a dead-end road and that beautiful road being there, it lent itself to get dumped on like you would not believe, the amount of dumping. and we were allowed to block it if we maintained the road, and for 35 years, we've done our best. My dad died a couple years ago. We haven't probably done quite as good the last couple of years, but we've done a fine job for many years, and the zoning agreed we could block it to stop the dumping, since I own virtually everything but 50 foot back there, my dad and I did.
Okay, so you folks also own the lots on the left that you're not seeking a variance for. Is that correct? You said you
At
own
the
all
end
but
of
50 feet.
The lots that we had an initial study done, I hope I answer you correctly, sir, but that the sewer and all would involve those lots, but the variances for lots, all of them on the right side, and then lots 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9 are the only ones in this. And the end of the road from 9 to 0 is not buildable. So there's no intention to build. They're in the floodplain, as said. We've never seen viability. That's why we want to get the sewer across the road so that these could be done. But no, it would not serve those. The sewer's actually on the side of the road. It's not in the middle, because there's no intention of serving the left side of the road proper, except where it crosses the property of 12, 11, and 10.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting me speak again about that. I appreciate it.
Unless any of my fellow board members have any other questions or issues for anyone,
I just have a quick question because I can't get my computer to blow it up. Do each of these lots meet the R20 requirement for size, Mr. Peterson?
No, they're grandfathered for lot size because they were platted in 1955, but he is required to meet other things in zoning like setbacks, impervious coverage, and house size.
So then in those requirements, if this did go through and he did start building, then do you foresee having variance on each of the lots to meet, to be able to build, given that there's floodplain, according to our water department, we would have an issue with that as well, to get out of the floodplains?
And I'm not anticipating any variances regarding a zoning requirement.
Good?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. So just to be clear here today, Mr. Peterson, we're not guaranteeing the applicant that he's going to be able to build a house on every one of these lots.
Correct.
Okay. All right. My motion then is to go ahead and approve the variance as requested to waive the requirement that there be paved sidewalk, curb, and gutter in front of these specific lots shown on the, can you put that back up, by the way? The specific yellow highlighted areas in V123, the street, to the extent it runs along them and abuts them, will not be required to have paved sidewalk, curb, and gutter. We're not commenting on the rest of the subdivision. We're just limiting our variance to that, and then that motion for approval will be subject to any stormwater comments as may exist and all traffic comments.
I have a second for questions. Are y'all prepared to vote? We need a second.
Second.
Second. Yeah, we have a second. Thank you. Place your votes, please. Variance approved. Thank you. All right.
Okay. All right, next variance we're going to hear is variance case V128, Vasudevan Srinivasan. Request a variance to reduce the rear setback from required 35 feet to 25 feet in land lot 212 of the first district. To Property is located on the south side of Mill Run Drive, east of Mill Run Trace. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V128? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Good afternoon. Please state your name and
My
explain
name is
your
John
vote.
Clay. I'm representative for, I call him Vasu. It's a lot easier to say than his name, so. We're asking for a variance in order to build a deck off the back of his house. That way he can make use of his backyard. The last meeting, we were asked to, I was asked to see if he would be willing to do a dam breach study, and he's not willing. He doesn't believe that he should be able to pay the rather large sum of money to get that breach study done. The dam's not on this property, and is also not in the subdivision that he lives in. And from the looks of it, from what I could tell, I don't think if it did breach, it would affect what we are building. So that's pretty much where we stand now.
And your client's not willing to budge?
No, it's between $3,000 and $10,000 from what we've found out so far. And he, you know, if it was $200 or $300, $500, he'd been willing to, but that was little out of his budget that he has for the project. So.
Okay, do you have anything else to add?
Do what?
Do you have anything else to add?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may take a seat.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Heath?
Hello, Cobb. Andrew Heath, Cobb Stormwater Management.
You heard the applicant has basically refused to do the analysis, so I don't know where that puts us.
Yeah, the applicant, I believe the variance request was for a rear building setback, if I recall. So ironically, I don't really have any objection necessarily to a setback variance, but as a general rule, and this is it's seemingly, you could see seemingly unfair that one individual, you know, has to evaluate that issue, but a lot of times, a long time ago, 70s and 80s and prior, there wasn't as much attention paid to stormwater management issues, and unfortunately, there are a lot of kind of built-in, difficult to resolve issues, and so I had spoken to the applicant by email a few times, and the applicant made the point that they thought, well, if the deck was going to be in the dam breach zone, potentially maybe the house is as well, and that may well be the case. It may be, but really the point of obtaining the study and determining exactly where the dam breach zone is that we don't want to be permitting additional development in an area that, you know, could potentially be under threat. So it would be great, and the applicant mentioned about you know, the county doing something like that. The county typically has approached those private lakes as they are private property. They're privately owned, and so it's not really something typically that the county gets involved with. But unfortunately, in these kind of cases for the applicant, we just have to ask the applicant to do those sort of studies to show that they're outside that area. And it might be, in this case, it has to be a dam breach zone, but in other cases, it might have to do with something about determining something about the floodplain or something like that. And unfortunately, that's just part of the development process. So as I say, I'm not really opposed to the setback variance per se. I don't really, from a stormwater standpoint, I ordinarily wouldn't really have any comment on that. It's more about even if the setback variance were approved, if it were to come to our office for review, or if this house were building a deck or something entirely, or a home addition or something entirely within the building setback, so they didn't need a variance at all, it would still probably come to our office for review, and then we would have the same comments for the applicant. So, I do hate that the applicant has to bear that burden, but I don't see another way around that to make sure that we're not, building more, in the future that, could potentially lead the county to be, have some liability, and, heaven forbid there be other, liability for someone who's, residing there on the lot or elsewhere. So I don't really see another way around it.
Okay. Do my fellow board members have any questions?
So in reviewing this, I mean, I guess my only caveat on what you just said or concern would be if you were able to say definitively based on your review that there would be no negative impact, right? Or an absolute, completely de minimis impact. Maybe that might be an exception or no?
Yeah, and that's what I think the study would show. Basically, we would show like where we the engineering profession would assume the limits of that dam breach would be, and then as long as we're building outside that, we feel relatively safe about that. We just don't know where that point is. So that's the point of that study, is to try to pin that down.
Right, so based upon what you reviewed so far, you're not comfortable opining that this would have no impact. Is that fair?
Right, yes.
And you're not comfortable that opining that you're 100% certain that the impact would be just completely so de minimis and slight that you're not willing to waive the exception, the requirement?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the concern is that the applicant, if given this variance and builds there, and then there was a dam breach and it did flood, then the county could be liable because we approved this to go into this without having that study. So could the applicant have a hold harmless to the county where he could be allowed to build this, and if there is a dam breach and if there is a flood, that the county takes no responsibility because the applicant couldn't get the study, and so it's pretty much 100% his responsibility and his issue, and the county wouldn't have any be hold harmless. We wouldn't have any, that's his issue, not ours.
Right. That's a good question. That's probably more of a, I guess, a legal interpretation there. That I think the way we would look at the lake and the dam is that it's private property, so it's not county owned. It's owned by another entity. I believe it's owned by an HOA, I think, upstream of him. So really, potentially I would think that if anyone had any liability, it would really be the lake owner, right? They're the ones who own the lake, and they're the primary ones. The county, I guess, would get involved from a permitting standpoint, and I don't know that we can really necessarily hold harmless an issue if we don't really know one way or the other. And here with a deck, it seems kind of minimal. It's just a deck. The house is already there. But, another issue here might be, let's say, imagine this house burned down and it came back to be built or something like that. That might be a different, approach to it. Or if someone has something like a deck or something there, maybe it deteriorated or something, or was damaged in a fire or something, would the county allow it to be built back? So honestly, I don't know that I can really answer that question about the county's liability, and if we have the ability to waive that. Typically, that's not something, though, that we've done. There have been some instances where we've had a hold harmless agreement where it might have been someone had a little bit of like an accessory structure, maybe in a drainage easement or something like that. And the county might say, well, we'll give you a hold harmless agreement. And then in the future, if for some reason the building needs to be scooted over, you know, or it gets damaged, you know, that's your issue. Those typically, those kind of things only really relate to things like accessory structures and stuff like that. And so I guess the long and the short of it is I don't know that I can really answer if we have that, you know, legal authority to do that. Usually we would just look at it and we would have the applicant, you know, either do the study, show where it is, and then either proceed or not, or just not do that. And that happens with a lot of different things, everything from floodplain to flood studies, all different kinds of things like that. So we wouldn't allow the applicant in those cases to just say, hey, you know, don't worry about it. If something goes wrong, I'll take the blame for it, because, you know, I'm not an attorney, but I kind of bet that in the future that's probably not going to fly too well.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Sure.
So the HOA, the dam, the water, it's their responsibility, because I know that the county, the water doesn't take any responsibility for ponds, I guess, dams. In subdivisions, it's the HOA, its responsibility. So then, is that something that then, since the county doesn't have any responsibility for that, then it would be up to the HOA to determine if they want to take that? I guess it would be between, because we can't get involved in HOA, so it would be between his HOA and what he wants to build, not us. Is that?
Yeah, we definitely wouldn't be part of the study other than just reviewing it. And some dams within the county, typically probably more major than this, probably already have dam breach studies that have been done, particularly if they're like high hazard dams. And so the state of Georgia may have actually already done some of those. And so those resources already exist. For smaller lakes like this, though, I can't say for sure that the HOA doesn't have that. It might be, you know, worth exploring that to see if they have that. But I don't know that they're necessarily required or that they could be held responsible for doing the study for them. It has typically been the applicant who's the one who's trying to do the work is the one typically, if there's some investigation, they need to do their own investigation is usually how we've approached it.
But it would behoove the HOA to maybe either they have the study or do a study, because if there are issues with this, when other people not requesting for variance comes in, and they build other things in their yard, they may be impacted as well. So it would behoove the HOA to do that, so that it has some sort of information to provide to the members, the study and what they can and cannot build. That's just, I guess, not a question, it's a statement. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. The staff works extremely hard for us in presenting us with their professional comments regarding each of these cases, and Mr. Heath has always done an exceptional job with his analysis, and he feels very strongly regarding the need for this dam breach analysis. And since the applicant has said they are not willing to have the dam breach analysis done, I move to deny the application.
Second.
Second.
Place your votes, please. Denial approved. Next case, Mr. Peterson.
Okay, next case is variance case V130, Jennifer and Trey Camburn, Request a variance to, number one, increase the maximum allowable impervious coverage, 35% to 50%. Number two, reduce the rear setback from required 40 feet to 14 feet. Number three, reduce the front setback from required 45 feet to 19 feet. Number four, reduce the side setback from required 12 feet to 9 feet adjacent to the west property line. And number five, allow parking and/or maneuvering of vehicles on a non-hardened treated surface, which is the existing gravel drive in land lot 756 of the 16th district. The property is located on the south side of Bishop Lake Road, north of Spring Circle. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V130? Nine. Okay, let the record show there's 9 people here in opposition. All those who wish to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Madam Chair and Board, I'm Robert Kane. My associate is Thomas Bogan, and we are representing the owners in the design of a new home for 4540 Bishop Lake. The owner's property is a legally platted residential lot of record. The owners have a vested right to build a residence on this property, and that right has been impinged upon by subsequent adoption of R30 zoning. The application of R30 zoning, designed for lots minimally 3 times the size of our client's lot, has on this property rendered 95% of the property unbuildable. By definition, a zoning hardship is a unique condition of a property that makes it difficult or impossible to comply with zoning regulations. Given the jurisdictional hardship imposed by the application of R30 zoning on a legal platted residential lot, the owners request the following variances, which are sufficient to allow them to construct a home typical of others around the lake. The variances we are requesting are a 19-foot front yard setback.
Excuse me, do you have handouts for us that has all this listed?
Sorry, what?
Do you have handouts for us that has your variants listed so that we can have them?
We have a slide presentation that will help.
We really need it here on our desks to see it.
Well, we'll show you what we have.
We're requesting a front yard setback of 19 feet, aligning with the street side of the existing house. We're requesting a rear yard setback, aligning with the lake side of the existing house. We're deleting our request for a side yard setback and for the driveway request. For similar reasons, many variances of this nature have been granted by Cobb County on numerous properties around Bishop Lake. Properties on either side of this property and directly across the slough are prime examples. My associate, Thomas, will now present documentation of the effect of the zoning hardships on this property. Also, adjacent and nearby Bishop Lake properties with similar conditions that have received variances. And finally, we will present our solutions for a new house on the property if the variances are granted.
Once again, Once again, I'm
Thomas Bogan. So we have, I know the site plan that you have on record still from last time we were here was, I guess, somewhat confusing. And so we decided to present some diagrams where we split out that information to make it more clearly. This first slide shows the property with the current zoning, the setbacks, front, side, and rear, and the resulting 601 square feet that's currently buildable if this was just a new lot with nothing on it. This shows that same buildable area with what's existing currently shown. This shows what that equates to in program, a very small single-floor house and an adjacent small studio. These are our proposed front and rear setback reductions based on the existing structures. And we're maintaining the side yards with no request there. And we are not requesting any increase to the allowable impervious surface. This shows overlaid a rough idea of the eventual massing of the house with a garage and just a slightly larger footprint than what's there currently, just to basically meet contemporary standards of what would be expected in a house of comparable size in the area. The existing total building footprint is 1,683 square feet. The resultant total footprint would be 2,918. And anything dealing with impervious would be dealt with during permitting. We aren't asking for any increase allowable. Anything dealing with stormwater, we intend to abide by all codes, all regulations, all ordinances. This is the map that's currently available online, showing variances in the immediate area that have been approved. Many of these reduce the front yard and rear yard setback to 0 on lots that are less constrained than 4540 Bishop Lake. Many have been reduced to 20 or 15 or 6. There are also properties marked with an asterisk on here for which there are no variances recorded, but for which the structures on that lot are clearly non-conforming and would have required a variance to make it even legal for what's built there to be present. We have some aerial photographs. This is also, so the property 4550 Bishop Lake, which is just to the east, was granted a 20-foot front yard reduction. 4520 Bishop Lake, just to the west. There's no variance recorded, but it's clear that the corner of the house, the northeast corner of the house, is around 20 feet to the property line. This house has no variance recorded for it, but the house is directly on the side yard property line and is pretty much overhanging the lake. This one similarly, the hardscape is only 9 feet back from the lake and the house only 18 feet back. There was no variance recorded for this. And we could go on. There's numerous properties around this lake where the houses are built right up to the lake, where hardscape is right up against the lake, and there were, I guess, no concerns raised about the non-existent lake buffer or stormwater or erosion control when these were built. Similarly, again, that hardscape patio is 11 feet to the lake. And this is just for clarity. The blue triangle is what's currently buildable compared to what's immediately adjacent to it. We're just asking to reduce the front yard and rear yard setback to allow for a house of comparable size to those around it to be built here. And there's a clear precedent set all over this lake where people have been granted much more extreme setback reductions. Thank you.
That's it. We're done.
Please be seated.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Henzinger What the architect failed to mention on the building close to the lake shoreline, that every one of those properties is grandfathered on old 1950s, 60s era buildings that were previously built there, and when they remodeled on the existing footprint, which allowed them to go close to there was no variance that allowed them to go as close as 14 feet or right up to the lake shoreline. The rear setback, the Camburn property is located on the shoreline of Bishop Lake. None of the 41 properties in the Bishop Lake community has new additional construction within 25 feet of the lake shoreline outside of any grandfathered footprint. The most recently completed new construction with the seawall at 4550 Bishop Lake Road was completed within the past 6 months and has a larger house and two-car garage on a lot that is smaller than the Camburn property and required a 25-foot rear setback from the lake. The variance for 14-foot was denied. This can be verified on the Cobb County website. There have been no rear setback variance approvals less than 25 feet for new construction at Bishop Lake outside of the grandfathered footprint. A 14-foot rear setback from the lake encroaches on the shoreline and would set a new precedent with Cobb County zoning, inconsistent and out of character with the neighboring houses that surround Bishop Lake. This new precedent would be on our historic lake that was first established in 1930 and is nearly 100 years old. Cobb County zoning has historically enforced a 25-foot buffer on all additional new construction surrounding the lake. Our residents realize buffers help filter pollutants and runoff before they enter Bishop Lake, maintaining water quality and protecting aquatic ecosystems. The Georgia Erosion and Sedimentation Act emphasizes that buffers stabilize soil, prevent erosion, and facilitate the protection of water quality and aquatic habitat. All properties surrounding Bishop Lake, except 5, have seawalls or riprap, and Cobb County zoning has nevertheless consistently enforced a 25-foot lake buffer on all new construction surrounding the lake. Furthermore, the rear corner of the Camburn lot is the low point of the property, and at this corner, the seawall stops 12.5 feet from the side boundary. In moderate or heavy rain or prolonged light rain, the rainwater, mud, and soil flow into the lake. There have been no lake buffer variance approvals, no exceptions. No 1/3 acre property in Bishop Lake community has a 3-car, 2-story garage and 2 residential buildings with 2 decks, 1 residence of which is an Airbnb. Upholding the 25-foot lake setback ensures consistent application of both historical and recent Cobb zoning policies, fostering trust in regulatory frameworks, notably the Georgia Erosion Control and Sedimentation Act. Variance approval to 14 feet for new additional construction could encourage a very detrimental new environmental impact on bodies of water that the state and county governments have historically protected. Next, front yard setback from 45 feet to 19 feet. I'm sure you are aware of the safety issues with the narrow and windy major thoroughfare cut through Bishop Lake Road. There have been 5 accidents or road excursions this calendar year. One of the excursions was on the Camburn property, and another was directly across the street. Traffic Department recommends the Camburn driveway be a minimum of 25 feet from the edge of the pavement or the county right-of-way, whichever is greater in length. Anything less is a serious safety issue on our already hazardous roadway, a roadway with no sidewalks. We strongly request that you adhere to the required Cobb County development standards and ordinances as recommended by Cobb Traffic Division. Next, remodel, new construction. The site plan submitted with the variance shows a rear deck rebuild inside 14 feet to the shoreline. This picture, the structure on the left, that picture was taken in March of 2020. The left structure shows no rear deck. The previous pictometry, which is probably a month previous, had a deck. So this deck was removed 4 years, 8 months ago. There is no record of any building permit which originally allowed the deck to be constructed inside the 14-foot rear setback. And there is no existing footprint to grandfather new construction within 14 feet of the lake shoreline. The proposed deck edge could be within 4 to 6 feet of the lake shoreline. Next, hardship. By Cobb County definition, hardship is due to size, shape, or topography of the parcel. The Camburns' hardship originates from proposing to accommodate a 3-car, 2-story garage and 2 residential buildings containing 2 decks, 1 residence of which is an Airbnb. All of this on 0.29 acre property. For almost 70 years, this Airbnb structure was part of the previous owner's personal residence. However, the Camburns converted this structure into an Airbnb. The hardship is self-imposed by keeping the Airbnb residence on the small plot of land. The variance application states to achieve a single family residence of comparable square footage to that typical of the neighborhood is not possible. It does not appear that the intent is solely for single family. It appears to be single family in addition to keeping the on-site Airbnb. The typical square footage properties in the Bishop Lake community do not include a personal residence that has been substantially enlarged, a 3-car, 2-story garage, 2 decks, and an Airbnb residence on the same 0.29 acre lot. The expansive construction on the proposed site plan would require variances on 3 of the 4 properties. And we've just been notified he's requiring variances on 2 of the 4 2 of the 4 boundaries. You must consider my hardship if this variance is approved. My lake enjoyment and economic property value is adversely affected if my down lake view is either eliminated or reduced. In summary, the Board of Directors of Bishop Lake Civic Association, my wife and I, and 37 community signatures oppose all requests of variance 130. After discussing the variance with all Bishop Lake Civic Association board members and surveying the opinions of association membership, the president of the Bishop Lake Civic Association submitted a formal written request that a 14-foot rear setback variance not be approved for new construction, and our community of 41 properties provided 37 signatures opposing the variance request for the proposed new construction. Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated.
All right. Lots of thoughts on this.
Yes, John.
Is there any more opposition that wants to come?
Any more opposition wants to talk?
There's 41 seconds left, Richard. 41 seconds.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the commission, I'm going straight to our recommendations. The above questions from the BZA, that the above questions that the BZA had originally asked be answered, that denial of the west side setback, which has now been withdrawn, denial of any new construction that would encroach on the 25-foot buffer outside of the original structure footprint be denied, and that the maximum impervious surface be reviewed by stormwater management to make sure that it is within the code, that driveway comply with all DOT and stormwater recommendations, and that all staff recommendations not in conflict with ours be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. We will now close the public hearing. If we have additional questions, we'll be asking whoever we need to direct them to come back to the podium.
All right. I was very disappointed that the applicant chose not to send new information to us and just dropped it here at the podium with no handouts or anything. That gives me zero ability to digest, to review, to talk to staff about. There's multiple issues you did not even address that need to be addressed. So perhaps you need to take some notes now because I didn't take notes earlier. First, DOT has done copious amounts of research regarding the right-of-way and have determined that it's 40 feet as shown on the site plan. Assuming you get to build this submitted plan and have done everything required by county code, what will be your total impervious lot coverage? And this would obviously include your driveway being converted to a non-hardened and treated surface. What are your plans for addressing the driveway? Will you be using pervious pavers or pervious concrete? Once you submit your new site plan, which I had really expected to get before this meeting, we will then give stormwater management time to calculate the impervious area. The maximum impervious surface will not exceed 35%, and the total surface area will not exceed 40%, as verified by Mr. Heath. Mr. Heath stated that substantially improved structures and/or rebuilds have to meet the current flood damage prevention ordinance. This will also give him time to determine if your site plan meets this ordinance. What records do you have that will conclusively show what were the original deck's dimensions? There are obvious concerns that the proposed deck encroaches many feet beyond the original structure's footprint. This is clearly something that is going to need to be researched and investigated further. You will need to provide evidence regarding this matter. The following statements on setbacks may or may not be pertinent, but again, I was not given time to prepare and did not make notes. To the west, when I asked you about the reason for the setback on the west, you said without hesitation because our neighbor to the west received the same setback. I know that that's a reason. I don't know that that's a reason to grant you a setback. In the rear, if any rear setback is given, it will be strictly for the structure footprint only and not across the entire property. I also am not going to allow any new construction that would encroach on the 25-foot lake buffer outside of the original structure footprint. The seawall, you just walked right over that, didn't mention it. I firmly believe the seawall needs to be completed across the entire property and that the applicant needs to make additional improvements to the property to limit the amount of runoff from rains into the lake as sediment is a problem. Mr. Heath could give you some recommendations on this. I am also inclined to restrict the house to fit on the original footprint. You do not have a hardship except the one you're actually imposing upon yourself by keeping the Airbnb, which limits your buildable area, and/or by not incorporating it into your new home. I make a motion to hold this case to give the applicant and staff time to provide and process the data provided.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Please place your vote. We approve of holding the case till the next hearing. Mr. Peterson.
Okay, next case is variance case V-134, Jody Powell and C&B Construction LLC, requesting a variance to, number one, reduce the front setback from required 35 feet to 34 feet, which is existing. Number two, reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure under 144 square feet for an existing approximately 40 square foot shed from required 5 feet to 2 feet adjacent to the east property line. Number three, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an existing approximately 207 square foot shed from required 30 feet to 7 feet. And four, reduce the setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an existing approximately 207 square foot shed from required 10 feet to 7 feet adjacent to the east property line in land lot 631 of the 16th district. The property is located on the east side of Rennie Court, north of Newton Road. Is the applicant present? The director shows the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V-134? The director shows no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Hi there, my name is Jody Powell. So to begin with, I'm very unprepared for this, I guess. November 25th of 2023, our house burnt down, and we are just trying to get variance because after doing boundaries in the site plan, we found that the southwest corner of our house is right on the current setback. We're also asking for a variance to provide a wheelchair ramp for my wife, which will go past the front setbacks that are currently in place. I also have a shed that I keep, lawnmower, all my tools and stuff like that in, and a small wood shed on the east side of the property. Instead of having to tear all these things down, we're building back on the same foundation as well. So, this is the reason why we're asking for the variance.
Anything else you want to add?
Just any questions you might have, I'll do my best to answer them in case I missed something.
Okay. If you'll please take a seat, we'll call you back up in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Heath?
Is there any opposition? Is there any opposition?
Hello, Andrew Heath, Cobb Stormwater Management.
Hi. Can you talk about the drainage easement and where that is? And do you know if the applicant is aware of it?
Yeah, on this mapping, it's not shown. The easement is, as this site plan that you see on the screen, it's right along the right property line. It runs directly down the right property line to the corner of that back corner there, just behind where the shed is, and then the drainage easement turns and heads kind of out toward the road. And so it appears that the shed at the rear, and then maybe if I believe there's a second shed, a smaller shed about midway along the property line there on the right side.
Yes.
And that smaller shed probably appears to be entirely within the easement, and then the larger shed, kind of the right, when you're looking in this image, the right side of that larger shed is within the drainage easement.
Okay. Do you think with the larger shed, we could do a hold harmless with that?
We could. I know that in this subdivision, we've already had folks in our office making some investigations of the storm drainage in the subdivision just because of its age. It's kind of reaching that time period when probably some of that infrastructure is going to need to be replaced. I don't know specifically about this or if this infrastructure has been assessed or not. But I would bet, just based on the age of the subdivision, that it's probably not that long. So in other words, I guess the idea, we were talking about this earlier, the idea of the hold harmless agreement is that when the day comes for the county to come maintain the pipe system or something like that, and the homeowner has something in it, a wall, accessory structure, that's going to have to be moved in order to access the pipe. And so then the question becomes, who's going to do that? The hold harmless agreement has always been kind of a nice thing because it was kind of clean. It was just a paper agreement. It didn't involve any money changing hands, and it didn't actually involve anybody actually doing anything. But it may not be too long in the future before something has to actually be done. So if that were to be the case, then the buildings might have to be relocated in the rather not too distant future anyway. So I guess to your point, potentially the hold harmless agreement could be something that, we could explore on that. But it is also something that probably not in the too distant future is actually going to have to be exercised somehow. And honestly, in the time that I've been at stormwater management, I've never actually seen one exercised where you had to go back to the homeowner and say, hey, I know that you may not even be the homeowner who signed this document, but your building is in the drainage easement, and now you've got to move your building out of the way. And I'm assuming that conversation isn't going to go well when that happens. So for that reason, I would prefer just to scoot the buildings over slightly, just to get them out of the drainage easement, rather than the hold harmless agreement. But if it pleases the board, we could also explore the hold harmless route as well, if you'd like to do that.
Okay, so you feel like both of the sheds need to be scooted out of the drainage easement, right?
Right.
Okay.
And at the time that this plat was recorded, we have a little different standards now. They only required a 10-foot wide drainage easement on pipes, and then it was a 20-foot wide drainage easement on open channels. And so part of this, if you could see the easement width isn't actually like it is on a more modern plat. It isn't just a continuous width easement the whole way. It kind of necks in places, and it's smaller, and then it gets bigger. So really, he would just have to move, or the applicant would just have to move the building just enough to scooch it out of that easement in whatever way, suited them. It would be fine with me.
Okay. Any other issues that you saw?
No, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if the applicant would please come back up.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm not sure exactly the building structure of your sheds. Is there like a concrete pour?
No, it's not. It's built on, set on blocks, really.
So it could be scooted out
No.
of the,
It could be. It's not going to be easy, but it's possible. I'm aware of the drainage easement that he's speaking of. They have worked on it in the past. And looking at this plot here, from my angle, the top right-hand corner, it actually lays right outside that, right to the right, just a tad.
okay.
Just so, I mean, they've been there working on it before, and actually part of it goes into my neighbor's driveway behind me. There's actually a manhole in her driveway. So, I mean, I understand I'm probably pretty close to it, but I think it's actually a little bit outside my property line.
Okay. And are you familiar that the fire department has required that you have a 1-hour fire resistance construction because of one of your setbacks is less than 5 foot from the property line?
I'm not personally aware of that. The construction company may be aware of that. I know we've gone through and submitted all the plans for the home already. I assume that that's been done. I will be happy to talk to them about that.
Okay. So, any questions from the board? Okay. My motion would, oh, you may sit down.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. My motion would be to approve the variance, incorporating the fire department's requirement for a 1-hour fire resistance construction because the setback is less than 5 feet, and also to move the sheds as needed outside the drainage easement. And I think that takes care of everything. Any questions, comments?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Place your votes. The variance is carried 5-0. It's approved. Next, Mr. Peterson.
Okay, next case is variance case V138, West Buchanan. Request a variance to number 1, allow an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet for a proposed 1,800 square foot sports court to be located closer to the side street than the principal building. And number 2, reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet for the proposed 1,800 square foot sports court required 100 feet to 7 feet adjacent to the north property line, 14 feet adjacent to the west property line, and 91 feet adjacent to the south property line in land lot 255 of the 20th District. The property is located on the west side of Cherry Bark Trace, south of Walker Hill Way. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case V138? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Good afternoon. State your name and make your presentation.
Madam Chairman, my name is Trey Baltz with Crescent View Engineering. I am the representative for the applicant. This is West Buchanan. Actually, the homeowner is here with me today. He bought this house 3 years ago. He has 3 kids. The oldest is now 12. What he is doing as part of this project is a proposed pool and the proposed sports court. So what we have done is that we applied for a permit for the sports court and the pool earlier this year. We came back and said that the sports court would need a variance. So we took our plans and we took off the sports court, applied for the pool, got the pool permit, then we took the plans with the pool and the sports court, took it to the HOA, got approval from the neighborhood HOA, so that would be something that we could say, hey, we're approved from the HOA to be able to go forward with that. So he's already got everything approved as far as on his limits of disturbance on here. The sports court, he's raised that area of there. It's actually had to flatten that out area where the sports court would be as kind of a grassy area. So this project's already under construction. It's a matter of if, you know, he can actually have that sports court there or not is why we're here with the variance. So we are going to be over 5,000 square feet of new impervious. Our approved plans for the pool already show a stormwater management system that would hopefully be acceptable to Mr. Heath over here. And we went ahead and sized it in anticipation that the board would hopefully agree for the sports court so that that impervious would be in there as well. So that's really it.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So a couple things that I noticed on your plans. And you might have noticed some of the setback variances we granted earlier today. Yours, I think, is more aggressive than any of those we granted today. You proposed to go from 100 feet down to 7 feet?
Well, I think that that's also with this being a corner lot.
Sure. It was a corner lot when it was purchased, right? I mean,
That's correct.
that didn't change. Do you have any architectural detail on the, what this wall is going to look like from the street?
We actually do. I mean,
Okay.
Wes, you want to bring your phone up and you can show? We've hired David Johnson Landscape Architecture, who has done the screening that would be for this. And again, this is a wall that would be what we would call a cut wall. So it's not going to be a visible wall from Walker Hill Way. It would be below the grade out there. So So I guess if you're looking at this plan, what would be to the right of the plan would be Walker Hill Way, and then there would be, I think we were talking like 8 foot high evergreens in front of the wall, but then you can see where the wall would be, you know, a cut wall in that scenario, and then the basketball goal.
You have curb there on the road, on this area? Okay, so how far is the curb from where these evergreens are proposed to start?
I mean, with the 7 foot, we would be putting it right up to close to the right of way, so it's 50 foot right of way. I mean, there'd probably be your driveway apron, probably another, yeah. So it'd probably be from the back of the wall to the curb would be, like we say, 17, 18 feet.
Why was this wall designed to be curved rather than, rather than a straight wall at that point?
It's pretty aesthetics.
Yeah.
You say you've already built the sport court or in the process of doing so?
Not the sports court at all, no. That would be something that we would need the variance for. So we've started on the construction in the backyard for the pool and that leveled out area in the back.
What, do you plan to use any lighting on the sport court?
Just low voltage lighting, landscape lighting, and there's a security light on the back gable of the home. So there would be no commercial stadium type lighting or anything of that sort.
Any overhead lighting above the rim?
Excuse me, sir?
Any elevated lighting above the height of the rim?
Oh, no, not at all.
Could you also give us your name, please?
Wes Buchanan.
So I'll throw this out to my fellow board members. My implication, let me try that again. My leaning at this point, and I want to solicit your comments, is to require that they go back and come up with something that's at least 10 feet outside the right of way as to all matters being constructed, and that the evergreen screening stay at least 5 feet from the right of way. That would be the direction I would try to provide to this applicant and his design professional. And then I would probably put some restrictions on the lighting, but I throw that open for comment before making a motion.
The neighbors that are mostly affected behind this, have you reached out to them? Do they know what you're building? Did they sign?
Yes.
Did they approve this?
Yeah, they're
So
very
you had a
aware.
signature from them?
I have it, yeah. They're very
And you have a
aware.
signature from the neighbors to the side of it as well?
Yes, both neighbors.
And they know that you're having a sports court?
Yes.
Okay.
I had to get it all approved through the HOA.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes.
And their signatures are part of our application. It should be in our packet.
Yeah, I didn't get that part, but thank you so much.
So that's going to be my request to you, that you come back. And my concern is just simply for the integrity of the road and the line of sight from the road since you're on a corner. Notwithstanding the fact the sport court's not in the front yard, I just don't want it that close to the road, and I don't want the screening that close to the road. So my motion is going to be that we hold this for a month to give the applicant a chance to come back with something that's slightly less intrusive.
Motion has been made and seconded to hold until the next Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Pass. All righty. Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
Okay. Okay, next case is variance case V139. Probity 1 LLC requests a variance to number 1, reduce the setback for an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet for an existing approximately 2-story, 1,550 square foot shed from required 100 feet to 36 feet adjacent to the north property line. Number 2, allow an accessory structure to be located to the side of the principal building, which is the existing approximately 2-story, 1,550 square foot shed. And number 3, allow for a second electrical meter on a lot in land lot 859 of the 16th district. The property is located at the northwest intersection of Turner Road and Bells Ferry Road. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V139? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Hello, my name is Ada Napolitano Garcia, and I'm representing Probity 1 LLC.
I'm Deborah Hubert, and I'm the sole member of Probity 1 LLC.
Hey, sir. Okay, essentially nothing other than being able to keep the side yard storage building versus behind the house, and to allow for the encroachment into a 100-foot setback. Nothing more than that, other than anything that was stated here, just to have the building allowable to stay where it is.
Any other comments?
This building is used
Can
totally.
you come back?
This building is used totally for storage. It has no sewer or any other connections to it. It does have electricity, but it is not intended to be residential or used for that purpose. It is only for storage.
Thank you. Yeah, y'all take a seat, and we'll close the hearing, and then if we have questions, we'll bring you back up.
Could I have Yulissa Foston come up from Code Enforcement, please?
Good afternoon, Yolisa Forston, Cobb County Code Enforcement.
Hi. I know I went out to look at the site, just drive around, and then I asked if you could go out to see what was on the site and what was being built, get an idea of what this area was all about. And can you go over what the findings were from one of your officers, please?
One of the officers went out on November 8th and observed the homeless camp near the property. In the wooded area, there was trash, tents, a clothing line for drying clothes, and junk items that was stored outside on the lot next to the property. I have some pictures. So the property owner has been contacted, and a notice of violation was issued on the 8th, sent out to the property owner for permitted use campgrounds, litter, and outside storage. The property owner is required to get in contact with Cobb PD to get assistance with the trespassers that are on the property. And then the homeowner also has to remove the trash and everything off the property. So right now, we're working on compliance, but this is right next door to the property in question. Through the woods, the officer was able to see quite a few tents. He couldn't get too close due to safety issues.
And then this location was located on the piece of property that they own that was along what road?
That, the property is along Bell's Ferry, but it's not the applicant's property. When we initially looked at it on a map, we thought it was a property, but it was actual parcel that belongs to somebody else. It belongs to Amelia Partners LLC.
What is it?
Amelia Properties LLC owns the property with the homeless camp on it.
So is that, when you were looking at a map now, where, is that the one that says 1521, or is it the one that's below on Bell's Ferry and Turner Road?
It's over.
It's up here.
The officer stated that we identified the wrong property. At first, we were under interpretation that it was at Turner and Bell's Ferry, but that's the applicant's property.
Okay.
That's not where the camp is. The camp is next door to the applicant.
Okay, and so this applicant wasn't served, it was another person that was served?
Yes.
And this encampment comes down, it borders on their property? The
Yes.
15? Okay. Okay, thank you.
But they're
so
not responsible for it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Could I have the applicant come up, please? So the applicant that reside, do you reside in this house? Do you
No,
live
I
in
do
this
not.
house? You do not?
I do not.
Does anyone reside in this house?
Yes.
And
they
who,
do.
is it a renter that you have, or can you
Yes.
elaborate a little bit about?
I have a gentleman who has worked for me for a number of years, and he is a Vietnam vet, and he is slightly disabled, and he resides on the property full-time. He is at this point unable to drive or get away from the property, so he is there full-time. We have had two situations that came up. One situation was it seemed one single person, homeless person, seemed to make an encampment on this property. We worked in conjunction with the police to remove this person and all the accoutrements that they had collected. Alternatively, I had a call from code enforcement, and there was a discrepancy because the code enforcement didn't have the proper lot number.
Correct.
And that encampment is indeed across Turner Road and does not, in fact, adjoin this property.
Okay. How long have you been the owner of this property?
About 5 years.
Okay. So in 2016.
Oh, I guess it's 2015. I'm sorry, I was incorrect.
Okay, thank you. So in 2016, you came in for a variance for an accessory structure, and so that must have been for your, because on the property you have two structures, one that you're asking for a variance today, and then one that you had built to the side of the house. And again, so you understand the variance process and what you need to go through for the variance. So in 2016, you came in for a structure which was already built prior to the variance, and then found that you were within setbacks. And so now you're coming in again, and I understand variances are complicated and what you're supposed to do to get built, how do you build things. If you don't go and you don't get these things permitted before you build them, there's issues with setbacks. So I really believe at this point, since you did come in for a variance for the accessory structure to the side of your house, that you would understand what the process is before you build, what the process would be, and make sure that your second shed would be built, you would get permission first to ask for a variance for setbacks before building it. The other issue that I have is that this storage barn has not been permitted, and now I understand it has electricity going through it, so it hasn't been permitted. Electrical hasn't come in to make sure that there isn't any issues.
I'm sorry, I was incorrect. There is no electricity to it. I was incorrect about that. There is no water, electricity or anything. That's my mistake.
But it hasn't been permitted. So the concerns that I have with this building is that it isn't attached to the ground. Its construction is on heavy-duty concrete deck blocks. I understand that you've finished and painted with hardy plank and shingle roofing, but I don't hand out permits in our building department, but I believe that a building not attached to the ground and sitting on concrete deck blocks is not something that's permittable. So I feel that given that you have come in previously for pretty much requesting the same type of, I built it, and now I would like to have a variance. You're coming in for, I built it, and therefore I'd like a variance. So I'm ready to make my motion.
May I say something? this was a negligent employee. I just came in 7 months ago and came in to help them. Like she said, a disabled veteran that's working for her. And I've actually gotten rid of him since then. And what I don't want it to be is like, hey, we built this and can we please have this? I was unaware of any of this until you just said it. He's been terminated. And the challenge with this is now, and I know everyone's an adult, but they're having to really sift through a lot of negligent damage of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you can find that in any way, or if someone can come out and look at it and see if there is a way to keep it. I mean, I'm just it's a very sad situation, and it was 100% wrong. And I didn't realize when you said they came in, I know exactly who it was, and he's been terminated. It took me 4 months to get rid of him. So I'm hoping for some grace on that.
Well, I understand your situation, and, you know, I empathize with the fact that, that this was done by an employee, but the issue is that this barn has not been permitted and is not constructed, it's not attached to the ground, it's 2 stories. And that is just not going to be permitted, and this would have to be permitted. So.
Is there a process to go through?
Mr. Peterson, to put this on hold, and then to have to for them to go out and get it permitted through the county, is that, I just need your advice, your assistance with this, please.
You know, based on what I heard about how it's been constructed already, I'm not sure if they can get a permit on it. Because normally when you build a stick-built structure, it's attached to the ground somehow. It's not built on blocks.
So I really feel that for me to put this on hold to be heard next month, for you to get somebody to come out that is just going, it's not going to go in circles.
Okay.
So I just really feel that this is not a safe building. It's 2 stories tall. It's for 1,700 square feet. Again, or 850 square feet, 17 total storage square feet. That's a large building to not be connected to the ground. The other thing that you're requesting is for a second electrical meter. And can you tell me what that is for and what that will be attached to?
There'd be no reason for it. I'm not aware of the reason for the electrical.
I'm not either.
I think that there was a phantom electrical box there. They kept coming out to look for it, and there was nothing there.
Okay, well, that was
Right in the variant,
listed
yeah.
number.
I saw it in there.
Number 3. Okay, so you can have a seat.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
I do have one question.
Oh, do you have a question? I'm sorry. I have one
Who
more
filled
question. I'm
out the
sorry, I didn't-
application?
I'm sorry?
Who filled out the variance application?
The gentleman that resides there now, the veteran.
But is he there now or gone?
No, he's there, yeah, he's there,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So he's the one that works out of there and keeps all of his files in the storage facility.
Are the files this is files that you put in these storage for a business?
Yes.
So you run a business out of this?
No, it's just storage. There's not a business out of it. It's just whatever he does, it's his files. It's tools, files, dog food, not dog food, that's not in there. He does a lot with volunteering and donating.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
At this point, I denied the variance, number 1, for the reduction of the setback. Number 2, the 2-story shed to allow accessory structure to the side of the principal building, to the 1,500 square foot shed, and to allow a second electrical meter on the lot. I'd like to make a motion to deny. And the structure and the meter not to be purchased in place, but if it's there, it will be removed, as well as the structure to be removed within 60 days.
Second.
The variance has been denied 5-0. Thank you. Next.
Okay. Last item on the agenda is variance case V144, Stephen and Linda McCormick. Request a variance to number 1, reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet for an existing 2-story, approximately 1,170 square foot barn stable from required 100 feet to 31 feet adjacent to the north property line. Number 2, to allow an accessory structure, which is an existing 2-story, approximately 1,170 square foot barn stable to be located to the front of the principal building on a lot. Number 3, to reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure, which is the existing approximately 170 square foot shed for required 25 feet to 12 feet adjacent to the north property line. Number 4, to allow an accessory structure, which is an existing approximately 170 square foot shed to be located to the front of a building, the front of a principal building on a lot. Number 5, to reduce the setback for an accessory structure, which is an existing approximately 297 square foot chicken coop from 25 feet to 1 foot adjacent to the south property line. Number 6, to reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure, which is an existing 160 square foot shed for required 25 feet to 5 feet adjacent to the south property line. Number 7, to allow encroachment of the 75-foot impervious buffer. And 8, allow a gravel drive, which is existing, without a 25-foot paved or asphalt apron at a public road in land lot 350, 351, 390, and 391 of the 19th District. The property is located on the east side of Velma Drive, north of Mary L. Trail. The applicants are present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V144? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Okay, I'll try not to be too nervous. My name's Linda McCormick.
I'm Steve McCormick.
One correction, the barn is not 2 stories. It's a lean roof, and it's just 2 stalls. And if you're familiar with horse barns, then, I mean, we have no loft. There's nowhere to put hay, so I just want to make that correction.
Take your time.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It was just number 8, we were,
I'm sorry, I have a hearing loss.
I was really asking for your input on number 8, why you don't want to asphalt.
Okay, the gravel driveway? We've been trying to get all this together, and we should have done it beforehand, and unsophisticated about these things, so please forgive us for that. We tried to do everything that needed to be. This has been really stressful for us. My husband has gone to see Ladarius many, many times to make sure we did everything that needed to be done. And we did not know about the 25-foot thing on the gravel driveway until last week. And then we were like, we didn't have money or time to get that done. What we do have, okay, it's not really like a driveway. Well, it's a little road to the barn from the street, which used to be grass and pasture. So if this committee would approve us with all our other variances, If we need to, we can fence that off. We have horse fencing on both sides. We could close that off. You know, we looked, since it was mentioned to us about the cost of doing the 25-foot, and we just do not have those funds right now. My 91-year-old mother, who is disabled, she lives with us, so my husband works from home. He takes care of her. I work in a medical office. I guess what I want to let you know is we are sorry that that was not worked on beforehand. We did not know. And I know ignorance is no excuse. If you see here at the very tail end of where the barn is, I'm sorry.
I can't hear you, hon.
Right there, where it goes into, we have horse fencing, 3-board, very nice horse fencing on both sides that kind of frame in that area to go down there. It's not, the only people that are using it now are, if we get hay, then we put hay in our little hay shed there, or myself.
And I'd like to mention too, the road's been in existence for about 2 years, and it was built very well. It was packed and it's level with the street. It's an easy entrance into that. We've had county vehicles, heavy vehicles, we've had a little bit of traffic in there. So in terms of the integrity of the road and its structure, we believe it's very good. We know that the ordinance exists. However, we'd like to beseech the board today, if in any way possible, to have this variance accepted.
Or also, foolish on our part, there's also another small horse farm. These are large lots in this neighborhood, and there are a lot of little horse farms on it. And other people have gravel driveways. And I even checked that after we were told about this, and I was like, oh, didn't realize that.
I'm sure everybody's familiar with the expression about assuming.
Yeah. So what I'd like to ask, and please forgive me for putting these back on, I have cataracts, so I need surgery desperately. But what can we do today to beseech you guys and ask you to approve our ordinances? What do we need to do with that gravel drive if that's the only thing keeping us? If that's the only thing keeping us, and we can't afford at this point to do 25-foot of paved road, I mean, would continuing the horse fencing from one side to the other and blocking off that, I mean, it really was just part of the whole front pasture area anyway. The only reason we put gravel on it to do that was to keep from getting stuck in the mud. But if this board will approve this, we would really appreciate it. I would really appreciate if there was some way that we could get our variances approved so this isn't hanging over our head. And if I need to fence it off, we'll get our fence guy out. And it's not, you know, it's just a little single lane, and there's horse fencing on both sides. It's just no horse fencing on there. So I'm just asking, what can we do? Please.
Thank you. So tell me about, you said this is just a 2-stall horse barn?
I'm sorry.
A 2-stall barn, that's it?
It's a little 2-stall barn. I always had a dream to have my horse on our property.
So you have one horse?
Right now, because we rescued one, there are 4 horses on the 5 acres.
Okay.
2 of them, well, actually 3 of them are senior citizens, so they don't do much moving around. And then we rescued a small horse that we're going to be reselling, but he was going to be put down just because he had lost so much weight.
Do you run a stable operation where you have a lot of other people come out and ride or anything like
No,
that?
nobody comes out and rides. Nobody rides on the property. The owner of one of the retired horses, she comes out and dresses. He has a hock sore right now, so she dresses his knee. And that's the only people that drive down there are her and then the other retiree horse's owner who comes a couple of times a week, but there's no riding on the property unless my husband rides in the round pen, which is in the backfield. There's no body coming down. The only other person who ever has come down that road, besides what my husband said, would be hay delivery. And if I need to stop hay deliveries there, I'll figure out something else.
But when you come and go, you use your asphalt drive, right?
I'm sorry, you're echoing and I can't.
When you come and go from your property, you in your cars, you use your asphalt drive.
Yes,
Yes.
we do.
Okay.
And walk from the house.
Yeah, I'm ready
To
to
the
make,
barn.
I'm ready to make a motion unless somebody else has questions.
No.
Thank you. You can have a seat.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Could we just inquire if there's anybody else here to speak on this matter? Before we get too deep into this.
I think we asked for did we not ask for opposition? Does anyone else have anything to say about the item we're discussing at this point?
If I may, we had gotten the dialogue with all of our contiguous neighbors, and they're in ultra support, and actually several wanted to be here today, but they couldn't, they're working. But we have full support of it. The barn location, it coordinates very well with our neighbor, and it's a little equine neighborhood.
Okay.
I'm good.
We good?
We did have them sign. We didn't know we'd have to be presenting, so we didn't bring PowerPoint, but we do have a copy of their signatures and that information.
Okay, thanks. You can have a seat.
Yeah, thank you.
You can have a seat.
Yeah, it's fine. Just, this is normal procedure. Just take a seat.
I can't hear.
We're in a place where it's echoing.
It's echoing. We can't understand anything you're saying.
Go ahead and take a seat.
Huh? Oh, thank you. Thank you. You'd have me up here all day because I can't understand.
It just goes back to the conversation about the sound system.
All right, and Mr. Peterson, if I make a motion to approve, do I just state,
The numbers.
I'm just looking for the comments on this one. Let me go back.
If you want to do an approval, you can go back to consent and just add number 1 and delete number 2. So barn not to be used for dwelling or commercial use, period.
That's the only comment you think we need?
Yes.
Okay. So my motion is to approve the 8 setbacks as shown in front of us right now for V144, subject only to the condition that this barn not be used for commercial use.
Second.
Place your votes, please. Approval passes 5-0. Thank you. Yeah.
That completes your agenda, Madam Chair.
Pardon me. Oh, I wanted to be sure I heard that right. All righty. We have 1 or 2 more housekeeping things to do, and then we can adjourn. Did everyone have a chance to look at their minutes from the variance hearing on October 9th, as well as our work session on November 4th? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve all minutes.
Second.
All in favor, please place your vote. Minutes approved. Do I have a motion for an adjournment?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. We are adjourned.